Signe Balmain, independent animator, has done Rocks in My Pockets. You're working on Marriage Proposal. What's before Rocks in My Pocket?
Oh, I made 15 short films.
15 shorts. Okay. Been around for everybody. Everybody loves her. Andy London is the head of the animation department at Hostos.
Yeah,
Okay.
I work at Hostos Community College. It's part of the CUNY system, and I developed a animation program. I've been developing it for 2 years full time, and I also teach at Harvard. I teach an animation class there.
Tillery is a professor at SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design.
That's right.
Okay. He had a film last year at Thundercluck.
That's it.
Which was in the festival. So he's agreed to come back and talk to everybody and tell you everything. Flew in this morning, by the way. He's going to tell you a bit about what he does and how you can sign up. Tucker Klein was a student at SCAD, and he is a character designer, and he worked on My Big Brother with Jonathan Klein, no relation.
Jason Rayner.
Jason Rayner. Oh, jeez. Okay, that may be wrong in the book. Sorry. Okay, I did by memory. Anyway, he is now living in New York, doing designs for animation companies.
Like you said, I'm an animator. I went to SCAD. Graduated in 2014. I was here in the fall representing Jason Rayner's film My Big Brother, where I was the character designer. Since I graduated, I came back up to New York.
Can you hear back there?
A little louder, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
Cool.
I talk loud, so don't worry.
After graduating, I came back up to New York and started freelancing around different studios, working mostly on commercials and some TV shows and things like that. I worked on a show called Happy-ish. That was on Showtime. Worked on one episode of that.
With Peter.
Yeah, mostly commercials and stuff, but it's fun when you get those kinds of cool projects. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, Paul Tillery.
All right. So as John said, I am a professor at SCAD. I actually was also a student at SCAD. I finished my MFA at SCAD's Atlanta campus in 2014, and that's where I made Thundercluck Chicken of Thor as my MFA thesis film. It's been in festivals for about 2 years now. Its 51st screening is coming up on Saturday in Seattle, so I'm going to that.
Really?
That might be his very last screening before I put it up online for everybody to see. So, excited about that, and I've got some side projects that I'm working on for next animation and other creative things, and teaching is a great kind of balance of having stability but also having the free time to keep pursuing that sort of thing.
Andy?
Okay, I'm a professor, but I'm also a filmmaker. I collaborate with my wife. We've been making animated short films since 1999. My wife works as a creative director for money, and I work as a teacher for money. And occasionally our films make some money, often not. But they do lead to, for me, they lead to more teaching positions. And I have a love-hate towards teaching. It's hard to explain. I'm good at it. I've been teaching since 1993. I graduated Pratt in 1990, and I had no skills whatsoever as a fine art major that were marketable. I'm really happy I went to art school because years later it became very useful to me. All my abstract thinking and a lot of things I learned at Pratt I actually put to use now. But 3 years down, I moved to the Czech Republic, to Prague, to teach ESL and to write a graphic novel. And long story short, I met my wife there a few years later. We came back and started making animated shorts together. And I began teaching animation around 2004, 2005. I started teaching at Pratt again, actually, where I went. And then I started teaching at University of the Arts in Philadelphia in their animation program, then Parsons, and then occasionally I taught at SVA. And around 2010, I left Pratt and I started teaching at Hostos Community College in the South Bronx to develop an animation program. Yeah.
I'm an independent animator for several reasons. First, I cannot teach for the reasons I explained. Second, nobody wants me to work for a big corporation. No big corporation will hire me because the moment they look at my work, they say, oh, I don't know what it is. I don't know what that would be. Out, right? It's been like a consistent message. So instead of trying to get a job, I create a job. I say, I have a project, I make a feature film, here's the budget, $200,000. Let's raise the money, work your ass off, finish the film, get it out in the world. That's how I operate. That's how I do it.
And Rocks in My Pocket is currently available on Yekra.
No, Yekra went out of business. Of course, the moment
He went
I
out
put
of business.
yeah, the moment I put my film
Yekra?
on Yekra is an online distribution company,
Okay.
and we put the film up in 2 years ago online, like 2 years, like a little less than 2 years, online for the distribution. And sure enough, because obviously I'm a bad commercial lot, they went out of business 4 months later. So
I
now,
think I still have the link on my website.
now I'm trying to destroy iTunes. Well, Andy,
They should go to every event that is involved with animation. They should network with people that animate and direct animation and get as involved as possible. And they also need to do a lot of listening and observing.
Okay.
And also understand that animating is pushing a golf ball across the country with your nose. It's not the most, relaxing thing sometimes. It's a really, really hard profession, and you make wonderful stuff out of it, but that's a big, big thing, is to be able to spend hours and hours by yourself making something move very, very slowly. And there's all kinds of programs out there. Some are better than others. It depends often on teachers. It depends on availability of equipment, access to films.
But you created your own equipment.
I did.
You
I
were
created my
brilliant
own
with those.
equipment because I got fed up. I was at this place that was just driving me crazy because I kept on asking for funding for tripods and copy stands and all the basic stuff you need to teach animation with. So I spent 3 or 4 weeks in my parents' garage in Long Island, and I built about 50 copy stands and tripods and all kinds of weird stuff. And I joined this thing called the iPad Initiative, because you have to do this meeting once a week and talk to the school about how you're going to use an iPad in your class. I did that for 6 months, had to write reports on this bullshit. And when it was all done, I ended up with a cart of iPads, and I have all these tools now that the students can animate with. And so that's why I did it, to make it easier for myself. And I like, it's similar to what you're doing. It's thinking independently. And I went in there and there wasn't an animation program. I decided to make one because when you work for some of the bigger institutions, the more recognized ones, it's harder to navigate through them because there's already a system in place and you have to work your way through it. And I don't mind that, but what was nice about Hostos is everybody gave me full free reign, and that's a nice thing.
Very good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would add to that to start practicing early and just do hundreds of thousands of hours of practice as soon as you can. And understand that your first projects aren't going to be great, but it's part of the process of learning. So attending things and listening and research is all great, but there's no better way to learn than to jump right in and start doing.
Yeah.
And
I agree 100%.
if animation is pushing a golf ball across the country with your nose, there are some people who are just born with a crazy urge thinking, man, I really want to push a golf ball across the country with my nose.
Yeah.
And if you've got that drive, don't be scared of it just because it's something new. Go ahead and get pushing.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. For the 3D animation, we mainly teach Maya, but we stress that the principles are what really matters, and when they get out in the industry, students will find that different companies use different software. As long as they understand the principles, then they'll be fine, whatever the tool is that they're using. But we also do teach the 2D animation class. This past fall was my first time teaching like traditional pencil on
Really?
paper, flipping through multiple sheets animation, and it was really fun getting back to that.
How many sheets are you using now for a minute?
For a minute, it depends on whether
Okay,
you're...
give me a second.
Yeah, second is 24 frames. Sometimes
Per
we'll do
second.
a drawing on every single frame, which is called animating on ones, and sometimes we'll do every other, which is animating on twos. So that would be 720 or 1440 drawings
Okay.
per minute.
and you tell, raise the leg, raise the hand, and so you get, this kind of stiff movements. So what animators have to do, you've seen Pixar credits, right? like you see in Pixar credits, they roll for like length of 5 songs. It's like 15-minute credits, right? And you see the thousands and millions of people that worked on film, right? It's very expensive. Why? What these people do? So what they do is they actually move the joints. So, you know, instead of raising hand like that and walking like that, they tell computer to move here with a needle. They raise the thing, they raise this thing, and all of a sudden, hand becomes more alive, right? Does it make sense? Yeah. And so, and then they do it very smoothly, and then the more lifelike movement you want to achieve, more of these places you have to put into the place, right? So that's where you get the lifelike movement. As an independent animator, I'm not able to do that. And I don't do 3D anyway, I do 2D. So what I do is, like, when I have to raise the hand, right, I very often I'll just do one drawing here, one drawing here, and your eye connects. Your brain says, oh, the character raised the hand, without even seeing how it was done. So I do half second here, and let's say half second here, and your viewer's eye catches it. The problem is that it tires your brain out, because your brain has to do extra work. Have you noticed when you go to animation screenings that you're like, after 60 minutes, 1 hour of screening, you just get flat tired? Like, you're like, oh, I can't watch nothing, I have to get and rest up, right? That is because your brain has been working overtime. Not only it has to fulfill the movement that doesn't exist there, right? But it also has to... Sorry?
Why are you not teaching?
Oh, there's a reason. Yeah.
but it also, because your brain has to, let's say when you have an animated drawing, right? You know it's a drawing. You know that it's not a character, but it's moving and it's talking, right? So your brain has to fill in again and has to say, let's believe that this is real. So your brain, when it watches animation, is working overtime, and that is the interesting thing. But anyway, as an animator, as an independent animator, I can only do like very limited drawings. So very often when you see independent animation, the movement is like very, you know, jerky, like a cheap TV series, right? You've seen those, right? Like
Saturday morning, I worked on them.
Yeah. Well, here you go. So that is kind of like a basic. But as to my recommendation, what to do, how to start, like do internships. Internships, like intern for me. I take interns sometimes.
Are you all set up there? Okay.
Do you know what to shop for me or no?
Yes, she's gonna.
Okay.
It's not big rubber.
When Thor, the god of thunder, slipped upon a wobbly leg, he accidentally zapped a hen who laid a magic egg. And when it hatched, a chicken bird was born with holy luck. He grew to be a hero, and his name was Thundercluck.
money, secrets, marriage, power, motherhood, violence. In this crazy world, how do you stay sane? This is a story about 5 women of my family and our quest for sanity. My grandmother Anna, a lively spirit, then a mother of 8. And my cousins, Miranda, an aspiring artist, Linda, an ambitious student, Irbe, a quiet music teacher, and me. I look at my family and ask, can I escape my destiny? The road to sanity is a wild ride. How in this crazy world do you heal a mind? Rocks in my pockets, a funny film about depression. I want to talk a little bit maybe more. You wanted to ask a question?
No, go ahead.
I've talked about like being an independent artist in the
Okay.
in the
And can these guys jump in whenever they
yeah,
want?
of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean the independent artist is an interesting concept because very often I feel that people aspire like you know when they just graduate from schools they say I'm going to have a job. You know, I get a job doing this one thing like in a bank, right? And after work I do work, right? And I'm like, well, in that case, your art is gonna become your hobby. It's not gonna be your job, you know. Does it make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
And so for me, I just like, and so how you were supposed to get better and deeper, have a deeper knowledge about your field if you work your best hours from 9 till 5 or 6, you work, you know, in some unrelated to arts job. So for me, that is very clear that I have to work and I have to treat what I do as a job. And so, and that is a responsibility as well. And I mean, it's not always fun, you know, when I get depressed, I can't sometimes work because I can't get up, but I have to, because if I don't get up, nobody else will do this job for me, right? And so there is this importance attached that only you can do what you do, you know? As to what to do, how to go about it, as I mentioned, instead of trying to get a job, I am creating a job. And in some ways I feel that it is maybe, I don't know if there is a potential in society to have more and more people who create their own jobs, right? Because the economy has these structures, top-down structure, you know, where these big corporations, they have us. They actually have us, you know, the bank, you know, your debt, you know, your student loans, everything. So you are within the structure. So how are you going to be able to create a job? I don't know. But that's what I do. And I mean, I can only speak for what I do. And so I do very little commercial work because first, people, when they look at my stuff, they say, oh, this is totally not marketable, right? And it's not commercial. For some reason, they recognize immediately that this is too independent for them. And that's one thing. And I do get commissioned work, you know, for other films. Like filmmakers ask me to do animation, like segments for their films. And then now I just finished art project for San Francisco Airport, like a video.
That's commercial.
That
They
is.
paid you.
Yeah, it's San Francisco. Yeah, no, it's a commissioned work. It's commissioned work because it's an arts commission who commissioned me to do the piece, and they paid $10,000.
So it's a commercial job.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's
It
not.
keeps you going for a little while.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm not selling
No.
anything.
No, I agree
Yeah,
with you, but
yeah.
I'm coming at it a different angle.
Yeah.
My wife and I could not have made the films we made without commercials, and I can't tell you how much I've hated directing MaxiPad campaigns, and I hated directing toilet paper campaigns or whatever other shit I had to do. But it was a really quick, short job. You know, lasts like 4 or 5
How do you
weeks.
get a commercial for toilet paper?
I don't know. We're the orifice company. I don't know. But anyway, it was wonderful for a long time. But what I found has happened over the past 5 or 6, 7 years is commercials pay less and less, and it's become very frustrating. So what I do now is I teach, and I think of myself as an independent filmmaker and animator. I obsess about it as much as you do, and I have to make a living, and it's really, really hard. I don't want to have a 9-to-5 job, and currently I'm full-time at a school developing a program. It's more like 9 to 9, 7 days a week, so I'm trying to find that balance. But I think you can teach. I think teaching is a great way to still be a filmmaker and artist, because you're getting inspiration from students and you're working with them. But the problem is, it's like you're saying, you need to be able to have the time to grow as an artist, and that's a very, very frustrating thing in the CUNY system, I find, because they emphasize the teaching a lot and they don't emphasize the artist part a lot, and it's a little frustrating.
I think to be an independent artist is very irresponsible.
Yeah. No, it's really true. How do you explain to your 5-year-old, leave me alone, I gotta do this, I gotta make this character do this?
Or like, how do you explain your 5-year-old if you don't have food to feed them, right?
Oh, I feed them, but but no, it's hard.
No, I feel I'm totally irresponsible, and I also feel like when I run Kickstarter campaign for my feature film that I took other people's money, or like I had an investor who gave a bunch of money and I'm not able to pay back, right? Because just film doesn't make millions of dollars. It's not really a Marvel series, you know?
Yeah. From my experience, I went from one extreme to another and then ended up, at least currently, in a pretty happy medium where I think I've struck a good balance. When I was trying to finish Thundercluck as my MFA thesis, I had a freelance job in Atlanta that turned into a full-time job and had absolute stability with that, but had no time to work on the film, and that was really frustrating. Then eventually I departed from that job, and it was great to be able to make all that progress on the film, but I had no stability and I went into debt, and that was a whole different set of stressors and
was the debt worth it? Was the debt worth it?
Yeah, in the long run it was. And the Thundercluck, its first festival was the SIGGRAPH Computer Animation Festival, thank you, in Canada. And when I went there, even though I had been at SCAD all along, I had to fly thousands of miles to SIGGRAPH to get the job teaching at SCAD because they had a booth there, and that's what so it worked out nicely. And with teaching, when school is in session, I agree that it's really, really demanding, and you're never not on call through emails or grading or what have you. But with SCAD's schedule, at least on the quarter system, you're guaranteed a 6-week break between the end of fall quarter and the start of winter quarter, and then for the summer quarter you have the option of teaching or not. So I have the stability of a full-time job now, but I also have 6 to 16 weeks a year where I can just do my own thing, and
that's nice.
It's pretty fantastic.
That's great. That's
So
fantastic.
you're currently working, you said, on Thundercluck 2, but it's not an animated piece.
The next one is a book called Thundercluck and the Kitchen of Destiny, and I'll be putting more information about that online in late May.
And that's going to go Kickstarter, or it's going to go...
Possibly Kickstarter. For right now, I'm just kind of exploring some options and trying to get content done before.
Okay, so you'll let us know and we'll share it with everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, now Tucker, you're an independent animator. You do mainly character designs, or you do...
I do mainly animation now. I did character designs for my big brother, but yeah, since I came back to the city, it's been mostly commercial work. Yeah.
But you're doing those were...
Yeah, so the majority of the stuff you guys saw was stuff I've been doing just on the side, like for fun or exercises, to just get better at animating stuff. But the very last thing in that reel was a client job just for Airbnb. I worked over at PsyOp as an animator on that as a freelancer. But yeah, since graduating, I do almost only freelance work. I would like to do more independent work, but I don't know. How do you do that? How do you make money doing that? Or survive doing that?
No, I was just saying that I do make a project and then I do the budget and then I'm on my own producer and raise money. And
So how do you raise money then?
well,
That's a little fun.
do you want to know how I raise money?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so there are two ways to do it, right? One is you put your own money in, which I never have, and or you put other people's money in, which is plenty, right? So the Rocks in My Pockets, when I started the project, when I conceived it, I wanted to make a feature film, and at that time I thought it would be $100,000 production, which is delusional, because it's not $100,000. In the end, it was $300,000 production, right?
But that's still low for a feature.
Yeah,
film,
it's very
isn't it?
low, but
Okay.
still very high.
Yes.
It's very high. I mean, I only make like 20,000 a year, you know. So, it just for me to think about 100,000 is like mind-boggling. So what I started to do was, there's this one friend of mine who knew some people upstate, and so she said, I'm going to throw a fundraising party for you. So we raised about like $9,000 through fundraising party, and then she threw another party, and we raised another like $6,000 for the film, right?
Good friend.
Sorry?
She's a good friend.
Very good friend, very good friend. But then we also identified people who had money, and also I also applied for grants. You know, like I know that in the United States, like grants, there are like maybe 5 grants, and maybe each grant gets like hundreds of thousands of applications. Really, it's like impossible to get a grant. It's like in Latvian, there's a saying: if you get something by just sheer luck, it's like as if a blind chicken is trying to get a grain, you know, and so without even seeing, you know. So that's happened to me twice. A blind chicken, I got the grain. So one grant came from New York State Council for the Arts. And that grant it couldn't go to me directly as an individual because of the politics. You know, Republicans and Democrats always fight about whatever. Because Democrats are against money being given to religious organizations, and the Republicans are always upset about money going to arts. And every time they find something that is that they could like undermine the others, you know, they do. So the way how arts funding was undermined in 70s was that now you as an individual, you can't receive money from the state. So you receive it through non-profit organization. And non-profit organization that I received the money through was Women Make Movies. And obviously it's very helpful to be a woman in that regard.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are plenty of non-profit organizations for men, like Men Make Movies.
Probably.
I'm pretty sure. Hollywood is full of those. Right? Well, anyway, Women Make Movies processed my donation, not donation, but my money,
Grant.
the grant. And instantly my project became non-profit. And I was able to now receive donations and have them tax deducted, right? Now that was what's happening. Well, with the help of my friend, we identified, 40 people who wanted to give more money than just like $5. And so we raised about $150,000 because these people didn't want to give money to the war, right? They wanted to give money to the arts. And so that's how it happened. Then, of course, that money ran out on the second year of production, and I didn't know how much it's going to take, and because I'm just a beginner in all this. And then we had to run a Kickstarter campaign, and we raised. And Kickstarter, you know what a Kickstarter is, right? It's such a pain in the ass to run one campaign, and it's very time-consuming and it's very demanding. But we raised $50,000, right? Over $50,000, which was the hardest money I have ever made. You think making commercials is hard?
No,
That Kickstarter campaign really kicks your ass.
Mhm.
I had like this shimmering glow in front of my eyes for a week afterwards. And then, and after that, right, so now we raised $200,000, right? And after that, the other grant that I got was from Jerome Foundation. You guys, you should remember, Jerome Foundation, New York State Council on the Arts, you should memorize these, right? Because it's helpful. And Women Make Movies, non-profit. And then after that, I ran out of money, and then I had to ask investor, because at that point you run out of people who are willing to donate you. And this person said, well, I think your film can make a bunch of money, and so he gave some money to finish the film, and I finished the film. And the film doesn't bring money like in a flood, but the film is about something, so it brings and you put it on online, and you have like certain tag words, and people come across it, and it went to about 150 film festivals, and it was released by Zeitgeist Films, like a big distribution company, and so it had enough press for it to still be generating views, and so it brings money, but like not enough money for me to like just shell out the money and give money back to the investor, or you know, it's like just little drips and drops, you know, and maybe it will make the money back in about 10 years. That's what I heard from other people too, you know, that a film brings money back in 10 years. So that's the hope. But the thing is, what, for 3 years, for actually 4 years, I had a job making the film. And that was my job. That was all I did. And I was producer, writer, director, animator, and a supervisor. I did everything. I mean, except and voiceover, you know, I did a lot of things. So that is how I do it. And now, of course, I get invited to give speeches, and then I ask money for the appearances, right? So that is another way. So just think about it.
Okay.
I do everything, and she tells me what to do. That's pretty much it, but, you know, yeah, she's no, move out of the way, do it like this. And it's hard to explain. It's a give and take thing. Sometimes we work more closely together than other times. I tend to write the material, and then she shapes the material with me, making screenplays out of it. And then I build all the assets, the characters, the props, and the sets, and then she gives me art direction, and then I animate everything, and then she gives me direction for all the shots I do, and then it comes to editing. She usually does the editing. Yeah, but we've been doing it on and off for 20 years.
Now, does she have a full-time job as well, or just take?
She has a full-time job. Yeah, she has a really satisfying job. Ironically, 20 years ago when we came back from Europe together, she performed on this stage quite a bit. You know, I haven't been here in 20 years. She went to school for theater, Brandeis, and she did a one-person show, Mending the Pants of the World or something like that, and she would get up here and do this 5 different characters, and there would be 6 people in the audience, and usually relatives, you know. At one point she was working for Strangers with Candy as like a writer's assistant. It's like a really shitty job, wasn't that great, but she hung out with Steve Colbert and Amy Sedaris, and Amy Sedaris came in and she freaked out. It was pretty funny, but we used to come here a lot. However, she at some point had a nervous breakdown around 1999, 2000, and got sick of being a cater waiter and doing these one-person shows where no one showed up, and she became an advertising person. She didn't go to school for it. She just found herself, she went to a headhunter and temp agency, and she climbed her way up from being a junior copywriter all the way to creative director. And it's a really cool job for her. I'm really, you know, she's now become the creative consultant for the Met Opera, and I mean all these like really cool clients, and she just comes up with creative solutions for them to advertise.
Very
so I find it as we move forward, she spends more and more time doing that though. So that's the only sad thing.
But is it fulfilling?
For her, it's fulfilling, and it is. But she does. I'm talking about her. She does miss being the independent artist, and she's trying to get back into that. But yeah, as you were talking, New York City is such an expensive place to live, and it's such a hard thing to balance being an artist, and we also have a kid now, and so it gets complicated.
Right.
So.
But I would not recommend to work with anyone who you don't sleep with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because once I did that, and we still don't talk.
That was
Josh.
Yeah.
And I heard that things like that are very common in animation. Like you spend a lot of, like I just recently, a friend emailed and told me that there's a problem with the partner and all that. So you better, like, if you start working with someone, you better sleep with them right away. And or just
Yeah, no,
you
it's
should just ask for interns before. You can't do that.
no, I'm talking about creative collaboration, like where you make equal decisions, or you are supposed to pull equal weight.
Right.
Because sooner or later, when you go on the stage to present a film, one is going to be upset. Like, it's just like, there's this one film, very famous case, you can Google it, the Balance, the German film that won an Oscar, right? It was a group of people, like 4 of them created it, and stop motion film. And it was huge success, right? And these guys, the 4 guys who love each other before, right? Now they don't talk. They haven't spoken for 30 years to each other.
Wow.
That's insane.
Next time I watch that film, I'll think
Yeah, obviously they were not gay, right?
I don't know.
Because if they
I've never met
were,
them.
they would, if they were, they would be still together.
No, it's true, though.
Well, anyway, that's my theory.
Yeah, no, it can get pretty violent sometimes. It's true. It can, oh, sure, why not? Our crappy town. I've been forced to go back to my hometown quite a bit the last 5 years because my parents watch my kid once a week on Saturdays, and also they're getting older, and I have to do more with them and take care of them. And I hate my town where I come from. It's just this awful shithole. And I realized
Where is it?
It's Glen Cove. I'm sorry if you know it. I just can't stand this place. And
It's
all I
out
wanted to do
of
was get the fuck out of there when I was 18. And I did. And then when I moved to Europe, I was the happiest ever because I was 6,000 miles away from it. And I spent 20 years after that trying to stay away from it. And when we had a kid, I had to come back to it. But it made me who I am, and it's something I like to explore. So the show is called Strong Island, and it's a period piece in the late 80s, mid 80s, about growing up in this town, and it takes place in a high school, and all the stories it's kind of like The River's Edge, or it's pretty dark stuff. It's also funny too, but it's just about fucked up people in a fucked up town trying and not knowing where to go.
Is it animated?
It's animated, yeah, and you can see the pilot
It's
for
very
it. It's
true to
called
the
Our
time
Crappy
period.
Town.
It's very true to having grown up on Long Island. It's
Yeah.
very true to Long Island.
Yeah,
so.
there's a film we did years ago called A Letter to Colleen, which is part of that world. You can look it up. Just go type in Our Crappy Town, and it's online. I don't. Yeah, you can watch it now.
You should also Google Letter to Colleen.
Yeah.
And that was about Andy losing virginity.
Yeah.
Very long.
It's a true actor.
It got traumatized him for the rest of his life.
Yeah. And my wife made out with interns to make the film because we had to film some parts
That's
of it.
illegal. She could get.
Yeah, but it's something I love TV. I obsessively watch TV, episodic TV, as much as I read books, and it's something that my wife and I are both very interested in is long form filmmaking, and animation for me is the way to go.
Why?
Why? For similar reasons that Signa's talking about. I have full control of what I'm doing, and
The question was why animation or why TV?
Yeah.
why animation, right? Yeah, because I love live action, I do, but it just becomes so much more complicated to do some of the things that I want to do live action, and with animation, I feel like that you have a lot of control over things, and you can really manage the workflow, and I've done it for so many years now. It's just my medium of choice. And I also animation because I think some of the stories are so real that animation suits them better because it makes it more abstract. It makes it something more powerful, more engaging. You do though, because animators are actors. They're introverted actors often, but they're actors.
But we also
And,
use voiceovers.
Yeah, and the voiceovers is actors
or
too.
Voices,
And
dialogue.
the difference is though, when you're doing live action, I mean, I'm not terribly experienced in live action, my wife is, you have to get everything right in the moment. Chemistry has to be right. With animation, you can fuck it up over and over again, and then redo it until you get the way you want it to. And it takes longer, and it can make you crazy sometimes, but you can really strive to hit every mark you want to hit. Yeah, that's a good question because a lot of character-driven animation is voiceover-driven, and if you don't have a locked scratch track of some kind, it becomes really difficult to change things later.
I can't imagine trying to do a voice.
I've done it. It's a pain in the ass, but you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a friend, Bill Plimpton, who was once he decided enough is animation, sitting at a table, you know, slouching over, you know, just posture gets really bad. Let me do a feature film, like live action with actors. So he put some actors together, and then they went to shoot, you know, and then there's this 3-week shoot. On the first day of his shoot at 7 in the morning in West Village, it was like in 80s or 70s, or no, 80s, right?
80s, yeah.
This like person walks out of the nightclub and still high, I guess, and cross-dressing. For some reason, it's a cross-dressing person in high heels and all that, and gets very upset at Bill and stabs him in the stomach. And so now he has to run to the hospital and get treated and all that, right? And so he says,
happened to Bill, really?
Yeah, and he says, why I'm doing this thing, dealing with like moody actors, dealing with people attacking me in the street, and there's no predictability. He says, I wake up at home in my bed, I roll out, I go to my table and I start drawing, and there's peace, and I don't have to deal with like unpredictable elements like weather, you know, cameraman, cranky cameraman, you know, moody actors.
No, okay.
This is the reason we are control freaks, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
We are gods. You know, very often, you know, like when I work without storyboards, you know, I ask my characters, what you want to do next? And they tell me, or I just make them, and I feel like God.
Also, I try to choose stories that couldn't be done in live action, where animation is the appropriate choice. Yeah, we tried training chickens, but it just
Didn't work.
It took a little over 3 years, but
shit.
a lot of that was when I was working full-time, freelance and grad school first, and then the full-time job. Once I departed from the full-time job, it was about a solid year of only Thundercluck to drive it past the finish line. I think if I made another one, I could do it faster now that I have kind of a process established, but we'll see.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do documentary work, but
I haven't made too many films yet, so not really. The one I made, I did my thesis film. Yeah.
money. I mean, it has to be some incentive, unless it's like a really inspiring piece. But
well, let me tell you, I would consider that if you came to me with a script, either with $70,000, and we would go on it, and all that, right? Or you came to me and said, and then you said to me, I have Saoirse Ronan attached to it. You know Saoirse Ronan?
who's that?
The actress who's in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, her, yeah, right.
Right. So if you
you
came to me and said she's attached to it, I would say, okay, when do we start? But I'm an animation whore, as I told you. I would do a lot
You
of
like
things.
that word a lot.
I do. I do.
Animation. That word.
No, I do a lot of things for other reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had a question?
The Hobbit. It was like this really cheesy film. I mean, it actually, it had
Bakshi?
beautiful, the Bakshi one, but
Wow.
it had this really amazing like rotoscope part to it, this night scene, and I had no idea what animation was or anything, but I wanted to do that. Yeah.
That war scene was
Yeah,
amazing.
but I waited until I was
That
31 to
was-
start.
That's interesting. I like those
Yeah.
questions.
You?
Yeah, I had always loved to draw, and late in high school, I've been a really quiet, artsy kid, and late in high school, I found kind of an outlet through theater and liked acting too. And then on the Finding Nemo special features, one of the animators said that animation is a combination of drawing and acting, so it seemed like the perfect thing.
I kind of was the same way. I didn't do much theater, but just always liked drawing, stuff like that. And I guess it was probably The Incredibles that
Yeah.
got me like,
That's such a good film.
whoa, yeah, that was awesome.
The second one has a release date.
Those are like 28.
Why? Why are they making a
2018 or
second one?
2019.
Why?
Because we have to find out what happened to the baby.
Whatever. It's like a
He got his own
perfect,
short,
perfect
didn't
movie.
Jack.
He did. Jack had his own short, yes.
But yeah,
So
so then
cheap.
going into high school, I decided that that's what I was gonna do.
Mhm.
Started doing it.
Well, I mean, Incredibles. You look at Incredibles and you say that, oh, I can do that. I look
No,
at Incredibles,
no.
I can do that.
I don't think it was I can. It was just I really, really, really want to.
It was your inspiration.
Yeah.